Hi, I'm Kris from Theme Park to Table, cooking up theme park recipes here in my kitchen. Today we're going to start something a little extra special. We're going to do 12 days of theme park treats. What that means is every day for 12 days, we're going to bake or create something that you find in the theme parks around the holiday season that would be considered a treat. For my family, baking around Christmas time is something that we do together. It's very special. I do it with the kids. We've been making cookies and treats and stuff since they were little. I let them decorate sugar cookies every year, and it's kind of funny because the last couple of years, their cookies have actually become works of art. When in the beginning they were just kind of globs of frosting that kind of fell off everywhere and rolled off the table. So today we're going to be starting with a Mickey Mouse gingerbread cookie that can be found at the Boardwalk Bakery. First off, my oven is preheating to 350. I'm not sure if the gingerbread will need to rust or not, but it's going to be ready to go for us when we're ready. I've got 6 cups of flour here. To that, I'm adding baking powder, salt, ground ginger, cinnamon, and some cloves. The dry ingredients, we're just going to take a whisk, and we're just going to whisk them together. Break up any clumps that are there and any of the spices. Just kind of get everything incorporated nicely. Looks pretty good and already smells like a holiday cookie in here. So we're going to take this and we're actually going to move around behind me for the next couple steps. So here I have my mixer. I'll pop this up. We are going to start by creaming some butter and some brown sugar together. I have had my butter out most of the morning softening. So let's get our butter in here. I am using unsalted butter because all recipes always call for salt. And I find if you put salted butter in, you actually end up with very salty cookies. And we're going to add our brown sugar in. Right there. And then we're just going to lower this, lock it in place, and let it start combining. This will take a few minutes probably just to get everything kind of well incorporated. Once the sugar starts to stick to the butter, I usually turn up the speed a little bit, but you want to make sure everything's kind of stuck together. Otherwise, you just end up with shrapnel everywhere all over your kitchen. Okay, we're going to let that come together. It's coming together nicely. Almost looking incorporated. When it's a little faster, just to kind of get everything off the edges and come together. There we go. I would say that's pretty well creamed together. So to that now we're going to add, eggs and molasses. You're likely going to have to try to scrape your molasses out of whatever you've put it in because it does tend to stick to everything. So let's get that molasses out of the bowl and into the other bowl. Molasses is one of the ingredients I have to actually keep away from my kids because my kids will drink molasses. I'm not sure how they do it, but they will consume an entire bottle of it. Now we're going to drop this down again and we're going to mix all this till everything comes together again. Same thing as before. We're going to let everything kind of start to mix together and then we're going to up the speed and really kind of whip it together. It's looking pretty good. Typically with gingerbread, as it all whips together, you'll notice the color kind of lightens, and that's how you know you're getting close to incorporated together. Okay, that is looking just about there. Next up, we're going to start adding in our dry ingredients. This you want to go a little bit slow with. so you don't end up with a cloud. We'll start about there. And same thing, start off nice and slow and low. Oh, and I went a little too far. Lock your head into place. And we're just going to let this work all in. Gingerbread is usually a very, very stiff dough. So it's going to get very, very sticky. And your mixer is most likely going to complain about it. If you're using a hand mixer instead of a stand mixer, I would urge you to be careful because I have killed at least 3 hand mixers trying to mix gingerbread with them. Because they just seem to have a very hard time handling the stickiness of the dough and the thickness. Okay. And we're going to add our last little bit in. And then we're going to let this all combine together. Okay. And the final little bit. When it comes to holiday baking, one of the tips I like to do is a lot of your cookie doughs you can actually make ahead of time, even up as much as a couple of weeks. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll mix my cookie doughs ahead of time. I'll form them into logs. I'll wrap them in plastic wrap and I'll put them in the fridge. And then when it's time to bake, you can just take it out, roll it, shape it, do whatever you want to do, cookie cut it, and actually bake them. And it actually saves some time when you get closer to baking time. Okay. This. I have never worked with this particular recipe before. This is a little bit crumblier than what I would expect. So I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to use my spatula, which is kind of sticky with molasses, and I'm going to try to scrape down the edges and work this a little bit, because this seems a little bit too dry to me. So let's come over here, and I'm actually just going to get my hands right in here and try to work this together a little bit. The recipe did say that it'll be a little bit drier than most gingerbread, and it should just stick together like this when it's time to use it. So I'm going to actually flip this out, and I'm going to try to work it a little bit before we try to roll it. So let's see if we can get this out of the bowl. It's very, very compact in the bottom. Let's see if I can get it out. So if you decide to bake along and make these recipes with us, just know that this is a very, very kind of dry gingerbread. I'm actually going to make the call that this probably needs a little bit of liquid added to it, because that seems way, way, way too dry to roll into anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on the mixer. I'm going to pick up my crumbs, and I'm just going to add a little bit of water to it, and so I can get this to come together. Like we've talked about before, this is the first time I'm making these recipes, so I don't know how these recipes are going to react. Let me just grab one of our little spice containers, because that won't hurt anything. My hand's a little rinsed, get a little bit of water, and see if we can get this to form a more cohesive dough. Okay, right there. Let's get this on low. I'm just going to add in very slowly a little bit of water. And see if we can't make this into something more workable. Now we're starting to look a bit like a little bit more what I would expect. Just a little bit more. Okay, let's see how that feels. There we go. That's more what you're expecting from a gingerbread dough. I would say I added probably about 1.5 tablespoons of water to this dough to get it to come together. Okay. So now, back where we were. Deja vu. We're going to take the dough out of our bowl, which actually will come out of our bowl now. Definitely a bonus. And we're going to get this shaped into a circle. And I'm going to say that this probably should go into the refrigerator for probably about 30 to 40 minutes just to kind of chill a little bit, which will make the gingerbread a little bit easier to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this out into a disc. I'm going to wrap it in some plastic wrap. I'm going to pop it in my fridge, and I'll see you back here as soon as it's ready to be rolled. Welcome back. Our gingerbread has been in the refrigerator and it's nice and chilled out. We've got about half the log right here, which I figure is a good amount to start to roll out, cut some cookies, show you what it looks like. I'm also going to share a little secret that I learned. So this is my cutting board. What I did is I put a couple of damp paper towels underneath my cutting board, and that will keep your cutting board from sliding when you're rolling. So there you go. I'm going to take a little bit of flour, and I'm going to dust our board. And then I'm going to take my hands, and we're going to dust on our rolling pin too. And then we're going to just start kind of in the middle. This might be a little bit of a big circle to fit on here all at once, but we're going to see how it goes. If we have to, we'll break it apart into 2 sections and then just cut the cookies out from there. We want to go to about 1/4 inch thick. And just get this all, it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, which is probably a good thing because I'm not good at perfect circles. We're just looking for more of the thickness than the shape right now. Because you want about 1/4 inch, and you want it to be pretty uniform through the whole piece of dough because that's what's going to make your cookies cook even. And you don't want some gingerbread crispy and burnt with others with raw bellies. So, you're definitely a little big for a board, but that's okay. We're just going to roll with it. Pun intended. So, I'd say that we are just about where we want to be. So I've got a couple different ones I'm using. I've got actual like little Mickey Mouse gingerbread boy or girl, and I have just a Mickey head. Just want to hit those with a little bit of flour before you use them, and then just kind of push down. And I always give it like a little spin because that helps loosen the cookie. So we're gonna do a few of these. Gonna want to leave some space between these guys. I don't know, once again, the first time I've made this recipe, how much these cookies are going to spread. Typical gingerbread doesn't spread super far, but I don't know. So we're going to err on the side of caution. We'll throw a couple little guys with their ears on. And what I do is after I'm done cutting, I reball my dough and re-roll it. And when it gets low, I add a little bit more until the dough is gone. So we can get him out. There we go. Looks like he's nodding his head to the side, but that's okay. Now, traditionally in the parks, you're going to find these cookies decorated with royal icing. For our purposes here, I'm just going to do some colored sugar on them. My family is not a real big fan of royal icing, and I don't want to make something that nobody's going to eat. I don't want to waste food. So I realize that the parks is traditionally, they're all decked out. For today, though, we're just going to use some colored sugar. So we're going to do this guy with some red and silver. And get some green going. Dress them up a little fancy for the holiday. I also did put down a piece of parchment paper on my pan. This helps keep the cookies from sticking. It also helps with the sugar cleanup afterwards so it doesn't actually burn to your pan. I do a little gold. And then we're going to do some silver. And we got one guy left. We're going to try to, let's see if we can give him some silver Mickey ears. And the rest of him gold. Okay. So these little guys are all ready for the oven. I'm going to pop them in the oven behind me. They say 10 to 12 minutes. So I will see you back here when they're ready to come out. I'll see you in about 10. Welcome back. It's been about 10 minutes, and I believe our gingerbread people are just about done. Let's grab them out. There we go. And just in case you're wondering how I tested to see if these gingerbread cookies were done, what they say is if you touch them and you push down a little bit, it should not really leave a finger imprint, which is what I did. So there you have it. We have some gingerbread Disney men and heads all ready to go. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.